Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session. This is Audio Podcasting Masterclass, and we're really excited. This is going to be week 2 here, and just realizing I got to just get my additional light on here. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. Today we're going to get right into the sound editing and sound design. So we wrote our script, and we got everything going. And the cool thing is now is once we have our script created, we recorded it last week on the sound recorder. Again, all that equipment you can get from the libraries. In terms of our partners, the Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library, and the Canada Council for the Arts are making this project happen. So the sound recorder we talked about last week. The small the Zoom H4n. We were using this Tascam here. We wrote our script, we recorded our podcast, and today we're going to look at how we can bring it in. So in terms of the software, I will be using something called ProTools, and this is what we'll look at today. Sound editing for audio podcasts. We're going to bring that track in that we recorded. Then we're going to look at ProTools and sound editing with that software. So this is a software, ProTools First, is available for free. You just need to create an avid.com profile. I guess that's what it would be called. And I'll just put that in here. So Pro Tools First, and you just register at www.avid.com. You create a profile there, and then you'll get a totally downloadable Pro Tools First that you can work on. Lets you work in stereo, a bunch of tracks, and you can do all your podcast work that way. Now, the cool thing is by using something like Pro Tools, you get into this, the digital audio workstation realm and using software that's industry standard, but also that you can continue to expand with. And I think that's really important, is that work in something that you can start with a few tracks, but you can expand to 300 tracks. And Pro Tools can be used to mix in surround sound. It can be used to mix in Dolby Atmos. It can be used to mix in ambient sonic sound. So all sorts of formats out there. Might be like, what are all these formats? Well, stay tuned. More workshops with these different formats coming up as well. And also last week we looked at setting up the list of what do I need for podcast or in our Soundscape masterclass. The Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve editing software, you can also do what we're looking at today in that software. And we've done some workshops on that too. So you can go to our YouTube channel and check out some of those past workshops to see what we've done with that. So all the track work we're doing is the same kind of track work can be done in Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve. So it's really the same thing, not too many differences, but it's just cool to showcase another piece of software that you guys can use for audio podcasting. In the past, we did audio podcasting just using the iPad only, using something like GarageBand to do all our sound work in. So there's so many options. So the concepts are the same. And we're not really here to get into all these like software specifics, but the concepts of tracks, organization, editing, design, and then the final mix, and what stereo panning means. And that's what we're going to get to next week, which is really exciting. How to take what we design and then mix it with some stereo panning and work in that way. Right, so today we'll look at sound editing for audio podcasts, taking what we've recorded, then adding sound effects. We're going to do that in Pro Tools, and then we're going to look at adding sound effects, ambient sound, and some music, because we wrote, the piece that I wrote dealt with music in that way. So that's the real fun part. Okay, so let's get right into this. So I've set up a Pro Tools system here. And the cool thing is we have it available right here. So here's just working off a MacBook Pro, 32 gigs of RAM. And most sound, 16 gigs of RAM, again, would probably be your minimum that you'd want for most digital arts applications. And whatever I'm showing today, you can also do in Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve. So that's really cool to note. The Pro Tools system will be available in the future at the Blue Mountains Public Library as an ongoing sound recording computer system. So that's why it's really great to be able to showcase this, and then you can always access it there as well. So Pro Tools is just this little icon here. I've already pre-launched this software just so it doesn't take too long to load. And the way we would do this is I'm just going to take you through the creation of a project. So I've offloaded the SD card from the sound recorder, right? So there's always an SD card. Take the SD card, click out, take the SD card, load it onto your computer, get the WAV files, the audio WAV files of your podcast recording. So it might just be yourself. Again, I encourage you to write the script, record the script, take this equipment out from our library partners. So right now, Blue Mountains Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library has those sound recorders. So you can take them out, book them, record your podcast. Now you'll take that file and we're going to put it right into Pro Tools here. So how does that work? So with Pro Tools open, I'm going to go to File and Create New. And then it gives me a bunch of options here. So I'm just going to go in here a little bit to the dashboard. So this is the kind of the central starting point of Pro Tools. So what I'm going to do here is say audio podcast master class demo, right? So then it says, where do I want it? Local storage. And now I need to decide where that's going to be. So I have it right here, TBMCS Sound Workshops, Audio Podcast, Pro Tools Sessions, and I'll say, okay. Now, the other thing that I need to do is decide what we want to do. So I like to make sure it's BWF, which is broadcast wave file. So that's the wave file. That's what we want. We want bit depth of 24-bit and the sample rate of 48 kilohertz. This is pretty much the standard that I like to suggest and recommend because this will be the same for video, music, everything like that. This is a really good standard for industry, for film and television and video work. And by having higher bit depth and sample rate, that allows you can always downsample it. So you can go down to like 16-bit, you can go down to 44.1. But it's not as good to go up, right? So you can always downsample and make things smaller, right? So just kind of like shooting 4K video, if you're in the video realm too, you can always go down to HD, but you can't really go from HD to 4K, right? So the higher we can have, some people work in 96 kilohertz and so on, but really the standard still to this day for the last couple decades has really been 48 kilohertz, 24-bit in the audio post world and podcasting. The input output settings here, it just says last used, but what I want to do is actually just go, hey, I want a stereo mix. Because that's what we're going to finish in, stereo mix and left, right. So the idea with the stereo mix is that you have left, right, and then you can pan stuff. So your voice could be right in the middle. It's called center pan. And then other elements, like let's say trains arriving, we can have it go from left to right, people walking right to left, and so on. So we can play with what we hear in the left and right ears. And that's that whole stereo effect that we're going to get into next week when we get into mixing. Then I just go create. I had an untitled one before, so I'm going to don't save that. And here we go. And this is what it's going to look like when we start. This is our start screen. So it looks kind of big, gray, empty. What is this? So the next step we need to do is we need to decide that we need to bring in some tracks. So this is all empty. It's all big, gray, empty. There's nothing happening here. Right, so we just have kind of our time code here saying it's 1 hour start, and that's again what I like to recommend instead of just 0, but it can be either 0 or 1 hour. You want one sort of a start time there. And then what we want to do is get into getting tracks into here, and the tracks are going to all lay down right there into one another, and that will work really, really well. So, right, so I got everything set up here, and we want to now get into bringing some tracks into it. I have a hard drive with a bunch of sound effects. Now, sound effects, we're going to actually look at getting a bit of a library together that we can access, and you can send me an email if you're in need of some specific sound effects that you're searching for. But there is a bit of a library that we will have available on the iMac systems at the libraries in the future as well. In the meantime, you can access a lot of free sound effects. You can record your own sound effects, or you can purchase stock sound effects for as little as $1 or so. So, your podcast might cost you a few dollars, or you can just record it with that same sound recorder. Go out, record your tracks. So if you need an ambient park, go to a park, record it. That's it. It just takes your time, a few minutes. Get at least 3 minutes of any kind of ambient overall room tones or park tones or earth tones as they're called outside. And then sound effects, let's say, you know, you need typing on a keyboard, you can just put that next to the keyboard, type on it, and you got your sound effects. So we don't have to overcomplicate it. We can really access things as easily as that. But I'm going to be using a sound effects library that I've accumulated over the years. And again, you can go to things like Sound Ideas. They're a Canadian company. You can access a lot of their sound effects, and again, piece by piece. It could be $1. It could be, you know, very cost effective. I often use their website. You just search, hey, I need this type of phone ring. I need this type of a kettle sound, and it's $1 done, and I have the sound effects. So it's really nice. Okay, so now I'm going to do is go File, and go to Import, and import audio. And now what I'm going to do is go to I'm going to get to a violin after, but what I want to do first is I'm going to go to, let's see, where's my drive? Here to my master drive. I have sound workshops, audio podcast, voiceover. And we did two versions we recorded. So I'm just going to take the second take. I like that. I'm going to add that, hit done. And then it's going to ask me this question. Do you want a new track or do you want it in the clip? And do you want it on the session start? So I just want a new track. And that way the new track is going to just get loaded right onto the timeline right at the start. And that saves a lot of extra work. It just makes it done. So let's do new track, session start, okay. And there we go. There's our first voiceover part there. So now I'm just going to be able to hit spacebar. The levels. Okay, and here we go.
Audio podcast demo, take 2. A man plays a violin.
Okay, so you can see that's our first track there. And it's just kind of like any kind of editing software. I can just click on this and then I can just erase the parts just by, so basically go to the beginning here. I can slide it with the mouse or cursor and make things shorter or longer.
Audio podcast demo, take 2.
Okay, so that's where it starts. Right there. Okay. And we're going to have it right there in the beginning. Here we go.
A man plays a violin next to the ticket booth. A young girl walks up to the ticket booth. I'd like 1 ticket to Toronto, please. I'm sorry, little girl. Do you have a parent with you? I can't sell you a ticket to board alone. The clerk looks away. I can't wait to see the art gallery exhibit. The young girl sits on a train. She looks identical to the young girl at the ticket booth.
Okay, so, and that's it. That was just a little short piece that I had written. Yours is going to be whatever you wrote. It's going to be totally different, right? So that's that. So now in the beginning, we hear it says a man plays a violin. So that's the first thing. I'm going to want to put a little bit of a violin piece. So right here, I'm going to click, and by clicking on that, I'm going to name the track to podcast vocal. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to track new, and I'm going to create another mono track. So one thing to remember is that the audio tracks, mono means it's just going to play equally left, right, or we can call it centered. And that's what we're recording with these types of single vocal things. They're just mono. There can be stereo recordings, but typically it's just one microphone like we did last week, record the mono, and then you'll see when we bring in some other effects, they're going to be stereo. So they'll be a left and right, and they're recorded in stereo with left-right inputs. So that's a big difference there. So I'm just going to create another mono track. And I'm going to say, let's call this first one, we'll call it narrator. And this is how we can start to organize our clip. So narrator, and then here I'm going to say cast. Okay. And then I'm going to just separate this out because from here it goes to the girl.
I'd like 1 ticket to Toronto.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to just click on that. I'm going to right click and I'm going to separate. And what that does is, see, it creates a separation. So it's just like cutting the track. And then here's the next narrator part. I just remembered it from the area where when we were listening to it. Okay, so I'm going to put all my cast stuff down here.
I can't wait to see the art gallery exhibit.
Okay, and then I know that that's the other part of the girl. So I'm just going to separate that. And now what I have is basically I have my narrator and I have my cast on 2 tracks. And that's always a really nice way to do it. I really like to be able to have the narrator there and then have the cast on another track at least. And then we can go further to even do one more separation here if we want the clerk to be an additional thing. So I'm just going to go new track, another mono track. Okay, and here I'll put double click on that right there where the audio is, and I'm going to say clerk. Right, and that's perfect. Right, so now I got the clerk and I got everything sorted. 1, 2, 3. Now they're all gray. So what I'm going to do now is narrator, cast. So instead of cast, I'll call it girl because we know that's the roles. And now you can see it's all nice and organized. So let me just, if we zoom into, if we just zoom into this here. Oops. Can't seem to zoom out of this now. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom into it here. So you can see it says narrator, girl, clerk. Right, and that's beautiful. So we got those 3. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here. Oh, it's over here. And I'm going to color coordinate these. So I'm just going to make this one. Let's make that blue. Click on this one and make that, let's say, red. And click on this one here and make it green. So now I start to color coordinate which track is which. So all I'm doing is just clicking on the edges here, and this brings up the color menu. So again, if I close that, watch when I click on this, it brings up the tracks and the color menu, so I can quickly color coordinate everything. And that's a really nice, beautiful way to get that organized and make it happen. Okay, so that's great. Now we're going to get a violin happening. So what I'll do is go to File, Import Audio. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is just go to my main drive here, and I'm going to search for a violin. And we're going to get some, I think I have a few violin things here. So I'm just going to go, okay, here we go. Here's a violin. And we can play. So I found I'll go here, I can pre-sample it. Perfect. So I'm going to hit convert because it's in a different sample rate. So it says apply sample rate conversion. This one was recorded in 44.1, so I'm going to convert it over. Hit done. It's going to ask where to put it, so I'm going to just let it go into the audio files here. It's going to just do a quick render, and same thing, new track, session start, and I'm going to say, yeah, let's do that. And you'll see, now I'm just going to click on this and drag it down here, so it flips it around, and now you can see I got the violin right here. So, and now over here we have S and M. So S is for solo, M is for muting. Solo just lets me hear the violin. Muting will let me just hear the voices. So here we go. We're going to just solo the violin, make sure that works for us. Perfect. And let's put a little click on that. I'm going to just make a little fade out. Okay, so we're not interested in leveling or anything right now. Everything's going to be pretty loud, like full loudness. We're going to mix that all next week.
A man plays a violin next to the ticket booth.
Okay, so that's kind of nice. You can hear that that's timing out okay. So now what we want to do is I'm going to just make the music a different color. Zoom out of here, click on this. Let's make the music violet like that. So it just keeps color coordinating everything. So that's his violin, so that's great. Now let's put in some ambient stuff about it, like being in a train station, some crowd people and stuff like that, just to bring in a little bit of that flavor. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm going to go to my main drive again. Let's go over here. sound effects library, and we're going to look at train station. Let's see, train station, Paris, there we go. So that's fine, so I'm going to convert that, bring that in, say okay, it's going to do a quick conversion. It just processes, it takes a few seconds to process, which is fantastic. Now you can see it says new track or session start, right? Like where we want it. So I'm going to just go again, session start, because I want that ambient just to happen from the whole time. So there you go. There's our ambience. And we'll make this a different color. So we just keep color coordinating everything. And we're going to rename this so that we know it's a train station. Okay, and now let's play it back. It's going to be all pretty noisy at the same time. So that's nice. See, we're getting that kind of interesting moment. So we can just listen to that on its own. And I'm just going to go up here to the window. I mean, turn up the mixer here a little bit. I'm just going to just lower that a little bit so it's not as loud, the ambient. So usually minus 20-ish or so. And let's go back to the other thing. So I'm just going from the mix window to the edit. So that's the main thing there is we have our edit, where it's all our tracks, and then there's a mix window with all the tracks, like an audio mixer. So just how, you know, traditionally if you were working with a mixing unit. So I'm just going to unsolo that.
Next to the ticket booth. A young girl walks up to the ticket booth. I'd like one ticket to Toronto.
Okay, so, and I'm just going to do just a little quick leveling of the violin. And this is definitely not, I'm not saying this is the final mix, but just so we can kind of hear how everything's working together.
A man plays a violin next to the ticket booth. A young girl walks up to the ticket booth. I'd like one ticket to Toronto, please. I'm sorry, little girl. Do you have a parrot with you?
Okay, so that's nice. And now let's put in a little bit of some crowd. Okay, so I'm going to just go back here and say crowd. Okay, so let's put that Italy. We're just kind of mixing it up, so it's where are we? Maybe it's, who knows where we are, somewhere in Europe. Maybe we're traveling in this podcast, which is fun. So again, just importing that in. And then same idea. So now I'm going to just go to clip list. I just want to show you guys the difference. So I'm going to say, okay, go to clip list. What happens is it shows up right here. Let me just zoom in over here. So see, all the clips are listed right here. So this becomes a big library of clips in Pro Tools. And all we need to do is I'm just going to create a new track. And I'm going to create the stereo track because that's going to be in stereo. Okay, and now what I want to do is, I'll just show you. So what we do is, Command Z if we make a mistake, and I'm just going to drag that clip right in here. So now I can drag where I want it and where I want it to start and things like that. So that's if you don't have it at the session start to import directly, but we're actually then just putting in the clips and then placing it after. So I'm just going to make this a different color, so that's nice. Okay, and now I'm just going to zoom out here a little bit. So the plus minus keys right down here. Right on so you can see now I got all these nice tracks going, right? You can see it's all laid out. It's really becoming nice and clean in terms of, you know, what I'm showcasing, right? And you can see it's slowly building all of these elements together. And then I can just, again, I'm just going to click on this, and I don't need that much of the ambience. It ends right about there somewhere. So we can just make these a little bit shorter because we won't need that much. And that's good. And we're going to then go to, I'm going to just click over here. Instead of audio, I will let it say crowd ambience, hit OK. So we're renaming and making it all work really nicely, so that's great. Then I'm going to go to my mixer here, And in the mixer, see, I'm just going to bring this volume down to about -20. And those are the faders that we'll be working with next week. But what we want to do here is just...
A man plays a violin next to the ticket booth. A young girl walks up to the ticket booth.
So you can see we start to get this flavor of what's happening in the area. You know, and it sounds neat, like people, the train station. Let's get a little bit more. Let's get an actual, let's get a train. I'll put a Russian train station in here too. So we're gonna really give it this kind of eclectic world vibe, different voices, different languages, and that's I think a really neat thing for this podcast. We'll make it kind of like you know, traveling type thing. So we'll say, yeah, let's just put it right in there. So that's another track we've added. Again, I'm gonna just keep always organizing different colors, different labels, and again, I'm gonna call this train station Russia. Fantastic. Go over here to my mixing. I'm going to just put it down to -20, 20-ish. And let's listen to this again.
A man plays a violin next to the ticket booth. A young girl walks up to the ticket booth. I'd like one ticket to Toronto, please.
So that's working really nice. I like how you know, that's we got this, all these like layers going. We're seeing, you know, getting all of these elements together, and I think you know, it's working quite nicely that we can, you know, get all of these things going, right? And I think that's the nice part, is that the layers are there. We can play it back, right, and get a sense of kind of where we're going and what's happening with it. So that's working quite nicely so far. Okay, so now let's get into a few more sound effects we need in here. So we probably want to have a train that's like arriving. So let's try and find something like that. I'm just going to do a search here. Train arriving. Let's try diesel train. There we go. Train diesel. Train diesel riding train into station, stops, disembarks. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, that's cool. So let's get that in there. Okay, so just a little bit of an edit there. Let's again make this some sort of a different color here, and this is the train arriving. Oops. And we're just going to go down here and just kind of lower that down a bit. That's great. Give it a listen.
I have a parrot with you. I can't sell you a ticket to board alone. The clerk looks away. I can't wait to see the art gallery exhibit.
So that's really cool. So that's really coming together nicely. We got, you know, kind of a nice vibe of what's happening, and you know, making it all work in terms of, you know, multiple ambient sounds. And now let's try and get a little bit more of a specific sound still. This one more, something that we can really get, a train that we can specifically control. That's what we're really in search of here. So let's do that again. So diesel train seemed to show up last time. Oh, we got lots of them. That's great. Okay, let's have a listen and see what these are. That sounds nice. We get a little bit of that. So we'll add that one. Let's see what this one's like. And this is great. We can just listen to all of them and find out what we want. It's kind of cool too. Okay, so that gives us a whole bunch of train elements. And let's just put them all in there. Just gonna line them all up. Give ourselves some little bit of elements that we can play with. Okay, so now let's, again, we're just gonna, this was a train bell. So I'm gonna hit solo, make sure that's what that is. Perfect. Okay, so again, remember the solo, we can just hear that track on its own, and that's always really cool. So just the S or the M, solo, lets us just hear that specific track, so we're not hearing anything else. So it's the S and the M right on the screen there. And let's make this a nice color. Okay, so that's just a little group there of tracks here. So let's just have a listen to what all of this will sound like. I'm just gonna bring these down a bit. Get a nice blend of all these different train sounds. And let's have a listen.
A man plays a violin next to the ticket booth. A young girl walks up to the ticket booth. I'd like one ticket to Toronto, please. I'm sorry, little girl. Do you have a parent with you? I can't sell you a ticket to board alone. The clerk looks away. I can't wait to see the art gallery exhibit. A young girl sits on a train. She looks identical to the young girl at the ticket booth.
Excellent. So you can see then we don't need too much more beyond that. So I'm just going to kind of wind these down a little bit. And now let's do a little bit of just one more thing of like some sort of walking or something. I think it would be really useful to get in there and you know, make it work in terms of you know, hearing someone walking in. I think would be a nice step there. So let's do that. Okay, so we're going to look at footsteps. Cobblestone, that could be nice. Okay, so we got a little bit of footsteps in there. I'm just going to bring that in. And this one will, let's just put a new track on that. And let's play with, I'm just going to get actually a new mono track, and we're going to just put it in that way. Okay, so here we're just going to need, we're probably going to want just a little bit of the footsteps here. Let's go just from there. This is where we can also make things a bit bigger or smaller. I should just mention that. So just on the side here, we can make things either small, or we can click right on here. Oops. And track height, and then make it a bit bigger, like so. And that really helps to just see what we're doing. Perfect. Okay, so let's have a listen to that.
A man plays a violin next to the ticket booth. A young girl walks up to the ticket booth.
Okay, so that's fantastic. So I think let's just color code that up. Footsteps. Yeah, and that's that. Okay, so now what we can do is we can we can make it basically work as the combination of all the different tracks now. So what do we want to hear when, and that would leave us into the whole mixing mode. So let's just go like this. Okay, let's just play back a little bit and see what we have.
A man plays a violin next to the ticket booth. A young girl walks up to the ticket booth. I'd like one ticket to Toronto, please. I'm sorry, little girl. Do you have a parrot with you? I can't sell you a ticket to Bordeaux. The clerk looks away. I can't wait to see the art gallery exhibit. The young girl sits on a train. She looks identical to the young girl at the ticket booth.
Perfect. So there we go. We got this whole environment going. That's sounding pretty nice. Okay, and I'm just gonna drag. So when I put this the footstep here as a mono, so what I've done is just opened it up, and there's a left and right. And let me just go over here to show that. I'm just looking for where that was in this new version here. So yeah, so you can see there's the main, and then we have the left and right of each footstep, and then that's really cool because then we can just drag in the specific that we want for the to be able to pan that that left or right idea. So that's perfect. So here we're just going to call the footsteps. Double click that, give it a nice color. Perfect. And I'm just going to get rid of this this one track there. Yeah, perfect. That's it. Okay.
And plays a violin next.
So the reason I just wanted to make that, I wanted to make sure the footsteps are mono because I want to be able to just do a quick pan, like left to right, as if the person's walking in. And that's what we're going to really get to for next week. So that's essentially where we wanted to be with this work today. So just getting all of the tracks done. So you can see what we've done now is, let's see how many tracks we have. So we have our narrator, we have our girl, we have our clerk, so 3 vocal tracks. We have our violin, so music track, that's 4. Then we have 5, 6, 7, 8 ambiances, 9, 10, 11, 12 train sound effects, and we have our footsteps. So 13 tracks altogether. So that's not bad. That's kind of a nice element of what we'd want to have for this kind of a podcast. So I think that's really fantastic. So you can see how the setups, it's really nice and clean. We've color coded everything. This is just the edit window, and up here in the window mode, this is where we can then quickly go mix or edit, and we can toggle. So if you're on one screen, the mix gives you all our mixing things, and that's what we're going to get to next week, which is how we can then play with left, right, leveling, automation, and everything, and make it all work. And then otherwise, the window we go over here to edit. Big important thing now is to always save. So we've already called it podcast masterclass demo. So I'm going to hit save. So you want to always be hitting that. So that's always like just a Command S. So just on the keyboard, Command S, keep saving it. And that's really crucial so that you're not losing any of this information, because you're doing all this track work. You have all these elements in here. And why would you want to lose something? Because it's really a lot of your time and work in organizing that. So it doesn't take too long to put it together. I hope that was helpful in terms of just getting a project started, importing audio, and getting tracks going. ProTools is really intuitive, and what you see, again, is very similar. The user interface is great. It hasn't changed much over the years. If you've used it in the past, you can hop on it right away. Again, so avid.com, you register, do a profile, then you can get the Pro Tools first software, free access. It's totally free software, Pro Tools first. Then you can always upgrade. They have subscription-based ones and so on. And like I said, we'll have the Pro Tools sound recording whole system available at the Blue Mountains Public Library. Once the libraries are reopened again, and in the near future, we'll have that all set up there as well. So yeah, really great going over this. So again, like I said, next week we'll get right into working in the final week. Next week is our mixing. We're going to look at doing some effects, mixing, and panning, so that we can decide what's left, right, and so on. So that's going to be really cool. So that's coming up for next week. So thanks again for joining us. It was a real pleasure to showcase what can be done in Pro Tools and taking our podcast voiceover recording, adding all these elements, and going from there. So yeah, I hope that was great, and I really look forward to what we can do next week and go from there. So awesome. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.